Okay, buckle up, because this is going to be a crazy ride. I'm James, and I've never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. This all started about 6 months ago, and I've been fuming ever since. So here's the deal. I'm 28, and I've always been an independent guy. I worked hard, went to college, landed a decent job in marketing, and was able to rent my own place not long after. Nothing extravagant, just a small two-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. But it was mine. I paid the rent, I handled the bills, and I made it my own little sanctuary. Now, I come from a family of five. My parents, my younger brother Kyle, who's 24, and my younger sister Emily, 22. Growing up, we were pretty close. We had our issues, sure, but family was family. Fast forward to the present, and things have changed. Kyle, my brother, is one of those people who can't seem to get his life together. He dropped out of college, works a dead-end job at a local bar, and spends most of his time playing video games and hanging out with his fiancée, Jessica. They're both nice people, but let's just say they're not exactly responsible. They've been living with my parents for a while because, surprise, surprise, they can't afford rent on their own. Now, my parents, well, they've always had a habit of picking favorites. I'm the oldest, but Kyle? He's their golden child. They've always treated him like he's the one who's going to make it big, while I was the one who just figured things out on my own. Anyway, one day I get a call from my mom. I was just sitting down to a nice dinner after work when my phone rang. I picked up and Mom says, "James, we need to talk about something important." I could tell something was off from her voice. It was strained, almost like she was trying to figure out how to break bad news. "Hey, what's up? Everything okay?" She responded, "Well, no, not really. You know how Kyle and Jessica are struggling, right?" I said, "Yeah, they've been living with you guys for a while now." She responded, "Exactly. And we've been thinking. We were wondering if you would consider letting them move into your apartment." I blinked. "Wait, what? Uh, what? Why would they need to move into my place?" Then she said, "Well, they can't afford a place on their own right now, and we thought it would be good for them to have a little more space. You're doing fine, right? You could always find another place." Now, let me stop you right there. My apartment wasn't a freebie. I paid rent every month with my own hard-earned money. I didn't even live in a super fancy place. It was a cozy apartment, but it was my home. And they just expected me to let my brother and his fiancée take it over because they didn't feel like paying for their own. I was stunned. "You're seriously asking me to move out of my apartment for them? That's my place, and I'm the one paying for it. Why can't they just get their own place like everyone else? Not only are you asking me to move out, but also to pay for their rent." I was shocked. Mom responded, "Well, you know how it is, James. They're struggling. This is just temporary. We think it'll help them out." I could feel my blood pressure rising. Temporary? They wanted me to move out for who knows how long, just to let my brother, who could get a job and rent a place like the rest of us, move in? And not only that, but my parents were acting like I should just bend over backward to make their lives easier. I told her, "I'm sorry, but I don't think I can do that. I've been paying rent here for over 2 years, and it's not like I can just give it up." Mom said, "James, please. We really think it's the right thing to do. You're the only one who can help them right now." I had enough. I said a few more words, but I'm sure you get the gist. I was pissed, and I felt completely unheard. So I ended the call and started thinking. I wasn't about to let them push me around like that. A few days later, my parents called again. But this time, they weren't asking me for anything. They were telling me. Dad said, "James, we've made a decision. We're going to have Kyle and Jessica move in your place starting next month. You need to find somewhere else to live." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were telling me I had to move out of the apartment I was paying for so my brother and his fiancée could move in. I was fuming, but I knew they were serious. It wasn't even about helping my brother anymore. It was about control. They wanted to do what they wanted, and they didn't care that I had a life of my own. "You can't be serious. This is my place, and I'm paying rent. You can't just take it from me." Dad responded, "You can find somewhere else. You're making enough money. It'll be good for everyone." That was the last straw. I spent the next couple of weeks looking for a place to move to, but I also made sure to take my time. I wasn't in a hurry. And when I found the perfect place, a small one-bedroom in a building nearby, I took my time packing up. But here's the kicker. When my parents called to ask for the rent money for my sibling, I wasn't going to let them take advantage of me. When they call me asking where the rent was, I won't give them the satisfaction of a direct answer. Instead, I will send them something, a letter, But that's where the story takes a crazy turn. What I wrote in that letter, it left them speechless. And I'm not talking about just being upset. This was something else, but you're going to have to wait to hear what happens. Trust me, you won't believe it when you find out what my letter contained. So, after I found my new place, I didn't rush into anything. I wasn't about to leave them with an easy win. It was clear that they weren't going to take no for an answer. But I wasn't just going to let them push me around. If they wanted to take everything I had worked for, then I would make sure they knew how I felt about it. For the next few weeks, they called and texted, asking for the rent money, of course. I ignored most of it. I figured the more I ignored them, the more they would realize how serious I was about the situation. But then, one evening, I received a voicemail from my dad. His voice was more urgent than usual, almost pleading. "James, we need to talk. Look, we understand you're upset, but you have to see it from our perspective. Kyle and Jessica need help right now, and we can't keep supporting them if they're not living somewhere stable. I know you're capable of handling this. Your mom and I think that if you could just keep paying the rent for a little while, we could work something out. This isn't just about us, it's about family." That voicemail made my blood boil. There it was again. They weren't even acknowledging that it was my apartment. It wasn't just about them helping my brother, it was about them asking me to keep paying for something that wasn't even mine anymore. I needed to say something, but I didn't want to react in anger. So, I took my time. I spent the next few days carefully thinking about what I was going to write. I wanted to send a message that wasn't just about what had happened, but about how I felt. I wanted to make sure they understood just how much they had overstepped. I sat down one afternoon, staring at a blank piece of paper for a while. But eventually, the words came. I started writing, each sentence carefully chosen. I made sure to put everything I felt into that letter. Here comes the letter. Dear Mom and Dad, I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened in the past few weeks. And I wanted to take the time to explain things in a way I hope you'll understand. When you first called me to ask about letting Kyle and Jessica move into the apartment, I'll admit, I was shocked. It didn't make sense to me. I'm paying for that apartment. It's not just some place for me to stay, it's my home. It took me years of hard work to get to this point, and it's not something I've taken for granted. But what really stung wasn't just the request. It was the expectation. The assumption that because you're my parents, you can dictate what happens with my life and my home. The way you acted like it was just temporary, as if I was supposed to drop everything and rearrange my life for Kyle and Jessica. That was the first thing that hurt. Then, when you came to me and told me I had to move out, I felt betrayed. You didn't even ask me. You told me. The only thing I've ever asked for in my life was some respect for the choices I've made and the life I've built. But you didn't stop there, did you? After I moved out, you started calling me, asking for the rent money. As if I owed it to you. As if my paying rent for the apartment that was mine was just something you could take for granted. And then you asked me to keep paying rent for Kyle and Jessica. I've already made it clear that I'm not going to keep supporting them, just as I've had to support myself all these years. I'm tired of being the one who has to take the fall for everyone else's failures. You've always told me to help family, but I've learned that helping family doesn't mean losing yourself in the process. You should never expect someone to sacrifice their happiness just because they have the means to do so. So, I'm not going to send you the rent money, but I will send you something else, something you'll understand. I hope this will be the last time I have to explain myself. Sincerely, James. After writing the letter, I felt this strange sense of calm. I knew it was going to make things even more complicated, but I didn't care. I was tired of being taken for granted. I wanted them to understand just how wrong they were to ask me to keep supporting my brother and his fiancée, especially when I had my own life to maintain. I folded the letter, put it in an envelope, and sent it off to their house. When I dropped it in the mailbox, I felt like a weight had been lifted. But I had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, my phone rang. It was my mom. I let it go to voicemail. James, we need to talk. This letter. Why are you doing this? Why are you punishing us like this? We thought you were better than this. We don't deserve this. I really hope you'll reconsider. Please call us. That voicemail was just the beginning. After that, I got text after text, call after call. But I didn't pick up. I wasn't going to back down. I figured that would be the end of it. Until the next day when I got a message from Kyle. Hey, I don't know what's going on, but you can't just leave us hanging like this. You're our brother, man. You're supposed to be there for us. What's the big deal? That was it. The nerve. I hadn't heard from him in weeks, and now he was acting like I was the one being unreasonable. That's when I realized this was going to escalate even further. I stared at Kyle's text, not knowing if I should even bother replying. It wasn't just him. It was my whole family at this point. The way they were trying to guilt trip me into paying for a situation I didn't even agree with was beyond ridiculous. I thought back to all the years they had taken me for granted, treating me like the backup plan, the safety net, the one who always had to sacrifice. But something about the text, about him calling me out like that, hit me harder than I expected. I felt a rush of frustration build up. My thumb hovered over my phone for what felt like ages. But instead of replying right away, I took a breath and decided to leave it for the day. This wasn't the moment to lose my cool. That night, I found myself pacing around my new apartment, the quiet around me almost deafening. I couldn't stop thinking about how my family had been treating me, as if I had no right to say no, as if I didn't have the right to stand my ground. I could feel the anger bubbling up again, but this time, I knew I needed to turn it into something more calculated. The next day, I decided to meet them halfway, sort of. I would give them what they wanted, but on my terms. I picked up my phone and began typing a response to Kyle. The words came quickly this time, sharper than I intended, but I knew it was time to make them understand that I wasn't some ATM for their problems that I sent a text. Listen, Kyle. I know what you're thinking, and I get it. You're in a tough spot, and I understand that. But here's the thing. You and Jessica aren't the only ones going through things. I've been working my ass off to get where I am, and I'm not going to just keep handing out money every time something doesn't go according to plan. I'm not your safety net anymore. This isn't how it works. The response came in almost immediately, and I could feel the tension through the screen as I read Kyle's reply. Kyle responded, "Are you serious? You're really pulling this now? You know Mom and Dad need help. Your family. This is what family does for each other. I can't believe you're making this so difficult. You've got the money. You've got the place. What's the problem?" I sighed. I knew this was coming. The guilt trip. The family card. But I was done with that. I took a moment before responding. I needed to be careful with my words. I wasn't going to let him twist it back on me. You've made your point. But here's the thing. I've been the one making sacrifices for years. I've put my life on hold because of your problems. I'm not going to be your backup plan anymore. I'm sorry if that doesn't fit into the family narrative you want to spin, but I'm done. If you want to make things right, it starts with you, not me. Stop asking me to fix everything for you. I sat back, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what kind of response I was going to get, but part of me felt like I had just set the stage for a confrontation. A big one. The next couple of days were quiet. Too quiet. I couldn't help but feel like something was looming. I knew my family was upset, but I also knew they were trying to figure out their next move. They wouldn't just let this go. Then, the phone rang again. It was my mom. I didn't pick up, but this time, I wasn't just ignoring the call. I was waiting for the next step. The next play in this game that had now spiraled into something I wasn't prepared for, but was fully committed to. The voicemail from Mom popped up, and I hit play. "James, I really don't understand what you're doing. You know Kyle and Jessica are in over their heads. They've been struggling for months, and you know how hard it's been for us to keep the house running. I'm asking for your help, and you're being so stubborn about this. This is family. You've always said you'd help when we needed it. We've never asked for much before, but you owe us, James. We've given you so much. Please, don't turn your back on us now." That word again. Oh, it stung, like a slap across the face. I had no idea how much longer I could keep this up. The pressure was building, and I knew things were about to escalate in ways I couldn't predict. But I had already committed to my stance. I wasn't backing down. They needed to realize I wasn't the fool anymore. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take any more of the silent pressure, I received a text from an unknown number. "Hey, James. It's Jessica. Can we talk? I know you've been getting a lot of pressure from the family, but I just want you to know. I'm not behind what's been happening. I don't want to make things worse, but I think it's time you heard the truth." The truth? What truth? At that moment, I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole was about to go. I let out a breath and tapped out a response. "Fine. But this better not be some scheme." Seconds later, her reply popped up. "I promise. I just want to clear the air. Please meet me. I can't explain it all over text." I stared at the message for a moment. Something about it rubbed me the wrong way, but I couldn't resist. I wanted to hear it from her mouth. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop a few blocks away. When I walked in, I spotted Jessica sitting at a corner table, nervously glancing at her phone. Her eyes met mine, and she gave me a forced smile. "James, you came. Thanks for meeting me." I slid into the seat across from her, without saying anything at first. Her usual smile didn't reach her eyes, and I could tell she was trying to act like everything was fine. But I wasn't buying it. All right, let's get to it. You wanted to talk. She fiddled with her cup, taking a long sip of her coffee before speaking again. Her tone was careful, like she was walking on eggshells. I know things have been tense between us. Between all of us, actually. And I know you've been angry about the apartment and the whole rent situation. You think. I shot back, keeping my voice level but dripping with sarcasm. You think I've been angry? I was paying rent for that place, and then you guys just kicked me out without so much as a word of thanks. And after everything, you expect me to just keep throwing money at it while I'm living somewhere else. Her eyes widened slightly, and I could tell I'd hit a nerve. But she quickly regained her composure, giving a small nod. I get it. I do. But, look, I need to explain things from my side. Mom and Dad, they didn't. They didn't mean for things to happen this way. It was supposed to be temporary. They thought they could manage without you. And, well, you know how that turned out. I almost laughed. She was trying to soften the blow, but I wasn't falling for it. They thought they could manage without me? But they were the ones who put me in this position. You all acted like I was the problem, like I owed everyone something. You want me to keep paying for a place I'm not even living in anymore, while they let my younger brother and his wife move in. That was the plan. Jessica shifted in her seat, looking uncomfortable. Look, James, I interrupted her. No, let me finish. This whole thing was a scam from the start, wasn't it? You wanted me out of the apartment because they needed the space for Kyle and Rachel, didn't they? And then, when things got tight, suddenly it was all my responsibility again. You want me to keep paying, even though I'm not there. What happened to family helping family? Her eyes flicked down to the table, and for the first time, she looked a little sheepish. But it didn't last long. She said, I don't want to make it sound like that's what happened, but I stopped her. Oh, please. I'm not stupid, Jessica. You want me to keep paying because Mom and Dad are too proud to admit they made a mistake. They want me to cover the bills, and when I stopped, they threw a tantrum. But I'm not going to keep bailing them out. She went quiet for a few moments, looking like she was trying to gather her thoughts. When she spoke again, it was softer, but I could hear the manipulation in her words. I understand why you're mad, really. But, James, you're the one who's in a position to help us. You've always been the strong one. Don't you think it's your responsibility to help the family? If you just gave a little more. I didn't let her finish. I slammed my hand on the table, startling her. I don't owe anyone anything. Not after what they did to me. And don't try to guilt me into it. You're trying to play the family card, but all this really is you trying to shift the burden onto me because they couldn't figure their own mess out. She recoiled, looking a little taken aback, but she didn't back down completely. You're being too harsh. We need you, James. I need you. I could feel the anger bubbling up again, but this time, I wasn't backing down. I crossed my arms and leaned back in my chair. I'm not getting sucked into this again, Jess. I've been there. I've done that. The whole family needs you routine doesn't work anymore. Not after the way they've treated me. Her face hardened for a moment, but she quickly composed herself. She looked me straight in the eyes, her tone now more serious. Okay, fine. You're right. I can't make you do anything. But don't forget, James, that when it all falls apart, it won't be me who has to pick up the pieces. It'll be you. And you'll be the one who has to live with that. Her words hung in the air, thick with meaning. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I wasn't about to back down. Don't worry about me, Jessica. I've got my own life to fix. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I stood up before she could. I wasn't sticking around for more of her manipulation. Don't try to guilt me into paying their bills anymore. I'm done. I walked out of the coffee shop, leaving her there, still sitting with her empty coffee cup. As I stepped out into the cold air, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time they'd try to pull me back in. But I was ready to cut ties once and for all. Then, as I checked my phone, a new message from my mom appeared. We really need your help with paying the rent, James. Things are getting worse. Please, we can't do this without you. I stared at the message, feeling the anger flare up again. But this time, something in me snapped that I was done. I felt a sense of finality wash over me. My entire life, I had been the one to pick up the pieces, to bail everyone out when they needed it. But I wasn't going to keep enabling their manipulation. No more being their fallback when things went wrong. I typed a new message to my mom. I'm done. You and Dad made it clear that I wasn't wanted there. You kicked me out of my own apartment and tried to guilt trip me into paying for things that were never my responsibility. I'm not a safety net anymore. This is the last time I'll be hearing from you. I hit send. A wave of relief washed over me, mixed with a little sadness, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Then, I went down the list. I blocked Jessica on everything. I deleted Kyle's number. No more being pulled back into their chaos. I wouldn't let them drag me down again. For the first time in months, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't going to be easy. Cutting family out of your life never is. But it was the only way to protect myself. I couldn't keep letting them use me. I deserved better. Just as I was about to close my phone, I got one last message. This time from Jessica. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push you so far. I don't want to lose you. I stared at it, considering responding. But then I remembered all the lies, the manipulation, the way they had treated me as nothing more than a resource that I deleted her message without replying that I wasn't going back. And neither were they. Still, I couldn't help but wonder if I did the right thing. So what do you all think? Was I justified in cutting them out of my life? Or should I have tried to work things out? Let me know in the comments.